Let's rock and roll. I'm also waiting here. Yes, I'm just informing the team here. Yes, we are now live. Thank you very much, everyone, for those who are actually keeping in touch with us in Facebook since 5 minutes ago. And for those who are still messaging me, we are now live on Facebook with Dr. Allen. Do- this particular session is basically in line with our real estate programs, but of course, we very honored to actually be able to invite Dr. Allen to speak on this particular topic, which is Budget 2021 impact on Malaysia's real estate market. Now, a bit about our speaker for today. Dr. Allen Poon is a luminary author in the Malaysia Book of Records since he became the first author to launch three simultaneous books simultaneously when he published his inaugural three practical books on the real estate tenancy, Good Tenant, Great Tenant series in 2017. As principal consultant and CEO for Superior Wealth Resources, Dr. Allen has been developing events and content services while improving organization bottom line through his consultancy work in the Asia Pacific region. He passionately involves in events and intellectual advisors work for his corporate clientele. And of course, as a trained leader, he helps people and organizations to achieve peak potentials from his years of management experience in the field of corporate strategy planning, project management, and branding, as well as his entrepreneurial training years in diverse industries. Now, Dr. Allen is much sought after by the real estate developers and major real estate events nationwide. He was the keynote speaker for Malaysia's first short stay summit in 2019, having regularly appeared in major mainstream print and TV media as well as radio for his contrarian views in the real estate industry. The Malaysia Property Press Awards 2018 and Most Meaningful Award ceremony, by a panel of judges consisting respected members of the press, and of course, to recognize Dr. Allen's achievement with an outstanding individual award for most media coverage given to a property speaker. Now, Dr. Allen is also a serial entrepreneur as he ventured into multiple disciplines across the hospitality, wellness, retail, and trade supply industry. In 2019, Dr. Allen co-produced Malaysia's first English real estate talk show by Bernama News Channel, the Property Hot Seat. And of course, Dr. Allen also stamped his mark as the brand name to be seen in SME industry when he was awarded the Brand Laureate Top 10 SME Brand Champion Award by the Asia Pacific Brands Foundation, a recognition of excellence for branding personality, both local and international. We are glad to have him here with us today. Now, before I move to Dr. Allen, now let me just give you a short, I would say a short reason why we actually do this and why we actually have a real estate talk. Because you see, UCSI College has been working very closely together with Hatamas and the board of the board of valuers board Bovia, and also we have a real estate program which is catered to both working adult and also SPM leavers. For working adults, you have the executive diploma, which is actually a alternative pathway for all real estate I would say, negotiators out there who seeks to take up this particular pathway towards getting a registered license. Well, our program is actually a 2-year program that gives you a full exemption from Part 1 and Part 2 of the board exam, which gives you direct pathway to a probationary estate agent. And of course, after that, you can move directly to task 1 and task 2, and followed by interview and your registered estate agent license. This whole pathway actually takes you about 4 to 5 years. Well, it's still the same as what you do if you are to take the board exam. It's much easier, and it's only a 2-year evening class in a nutshell. And of course, as long as you have 3 years of relevant experience and have an SPM of 3 credits, and you must be 21 years and above, you can take up this program. And it's about 24 subjects, and it's FLC applicable. So if you are looking at applying for exemptions, please do drop us a call. And well, for those who wants to know more about the program, please do scan here and just drop me a message anytime. Now, without further ado, I'll move the floor over to Dr. Allen to talk about Budget 2021. Dr. Allen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tony, for the introduction. And good afternoon to everyone who has been logging in from Facebook Live. I believe this is a very challenging time for most of you, because I think you have just done with your lunch, and it's almost tea time. So I hope you can just make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, and I'll promise I'll keep this short, sweet and short. Yeah. So basically, I was invited by UCSI College, and thank you very much, UCSI, for the opportunity again. I think sometime early this year, we did do another sharing just here on Facebook Live as well on the opportunities in 2020, and time really flies. So now we are almost at the end of the year, and I think it's also befitting that I kind of wrap it up of what I've mentioned. So I will share with you some slides that I flashed through in the what you call this early of the year, and yeah, so it will be kind of timely. Yeah. So is the screen? Sorry. Let me just check through. Yeah, I think some of you how many of you are actually already watching it on live? Give me a 1. Give me a 1 in the comment there. Just write your name. Give me a 1 on the comment there. Yeah.
Chong Kin Fung is saying hello to you.
Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, so I just share my link on my Facebook wall. For those of you who are on my Facebook wall, yeah, you can see this on the Facebook page as well. So yep. So I'm going to give my insights on the latest budget, and I believe most of you have already gone through the budget. It was tabled on the 6th of November, and today is already 23rd. So I believe yeah, I believe most of you already have seen it. How many of you have gone through the stack of what do you call this budget announcement? Please write a 6. I know, write a 6 in the comment there, so I can have a look, so I can know whether you guys can really, what do you call this, have actually, yeah, write a 6 there. 6, you know, if you have gone through it. Okay. All right. So let me just share my screen, and we will start in another few more minutes, because I believe some are still coming in.
Yep.
All right. Let me just look for my, oops, not this. Just let me share my screen first. Yeah. Yep. Here we go. So budget 2021, the impact on Malaysia's real estate market. I'm going to do a quick 45 minutes and sharing. And if there's any question, we will basically just answer that, because I'll be having next session around 4:30. meeting, so I have to excuse myself slightly after an hour. So here you go. Yeah. So let's start with this. Yeah. Now, just get my. Here's the top search results. Just me get my slide moving. Okay, so I will basically run through with you my slides for today. Basically, I'm going to be covering the responses since the budget was tabled on 6th of November by our Honorable Finance Minister. And what are the stakeholders' views? All right. Of course, the budget encompasses, I think it was read through almost 3 to 4 hours in the parliament, and we will just scope it down to just real estate related. So, but then again, we will still see what is the response that we have encountered so far. Some of the salient points, okay, snapshots and the figures, so that you can have a big overview of what is the budget that is related. Because I believe some of you are actually watching this either you have just put on hold your lectures or your studies, as well as some of you who are in the practice. So I think I just want to make it relatable for most of you. Then there will be some direct interest or benefits and goodies that was announced, and we will talk about that shortly, as well as also some indirect factors. All right, what are the basic so-called demand economic driven demands, okay, that would be helpful, all right, to the real estate in general. And of course, beyond 2020, because we are basically, till the year end already, so nothing much can do. And this is a budget for next year. So going beyond, so what can we correlate and what are the considerations involved mainly for the market? Yeah. All right. So let's look into some of the responses, and I call it a mixed response. Most of the medias were chasing after some of the stakeholders. Most of them are my friends in the market, from developers to estate agency, to the valuers and hoteliers. There's so many of them, and I would say that everyone has their own say. Everyone wants to be heard. For me, as Tony has actually explained, I've actually been observing the market for a number of years, and I would consider myself as a neutral party, more like a property entrepreneur. All right, having businesses related to properties. So these are some of the views. Credit goes to the Age for much of the interviews and compilation. So as you can see, this page is mainly on all the yays, and all the positive things. A lot of them say friendly budget, there's a lot of lower upfront cash. The state government are saying, the RTO housing is good, and of course encourages a lot of first home buyers, including strengthening tourism, and also creating property demand. Even abandoned projects are also being addressed. But there are also another group, and all these are they have their own views. All right. Of course, here the words are being used is just beware. There's a mismatch. It lacks some stimulating measures. May not help some purchases, and so forth. So at this juncture, if you see all this news for the last 2 weeks, perhaps since 6th of November until now 23rd, you may be thinking, wow, so what should I be taking note of? Because if you were to really look into the tabling of the budget, actually there's only a small portion that is related to real estate specifically. And a lot of us are expecting something like, is there an announcement that can spur property investor interest? Because when there is a buying spree, then of course there's a lot of stakeholders will be very interested, especially the primary market, where developers are already having some overhangs and oversupplies already. Okay, the market has been down anyway since 2015, and people thought there was a bottom out in 2018, slightly recovering in 2019, and of course we don't have to repeat, but this year everybody is already working from home due to the pandemic, and sales gallery is pretty much empty. So would you be overwhelmed with all this news? So I believe so, myself included, because if you were looking into some of these experts or basically comments, even myself today, I will have to put a disclaimer that I'm just basically putting it together some of the observations that I have. And I just want to make it sure that we remove all the jargons and see what can relate to us. as buyers, as negotiators, as perhaps professionals in the industry. So some of the points that we can basically highlight now is that I think up to now everybody knows that this is the largest budget that has ever been proposed or tabled. All right, and at 322.5, yeah, this is basically the largest number lah. Huh? A lot of people say they have the strong and formidable number, but in there, we have all the the strong and formidable lies on the daily number of COVID cases, right? But at least this is not with number three. So it's basically quite big, 20% of the GDP, as compared to the last year budget. All right. And thanks to the H prop for the infographics, which is very timely, easy to understand. But then again, how big is this in relation to what is going to be spent? Of course, these are currently being debated in the parliament, and this is a screen snapshot of basically how budget is allocated. Now, I can't go straight direct to the real estate part because you have to appreciate the whole so-called announcement, that have taken perhaps a lot of views, a lot of time to come out with it. And I know a lot of people are not unhappy with it. But then again, we have to see who is actually saying it. The people unhappy with it, are they the real stakeholders? Because the budget is basically it's supposed to be anticipated as the largest budget because it's supposed to use to be catered for the to counter the COVID-19 crisis that is unfortunately or fortunately, because there are certain sectors that actually benefited from the budget, is that it affects the livelihood as well. So, but as you can see from the allocation here, most of it, or a big chunk of it, 73% of it, over 236.5 billion is used for the OPEX side. All right, on the so-called purple area. Whereas the second largest is on the development expenditure, and only a small chunk, all right, if you look into percentage, only 5%, circa 5%, is only on the to address the COVID fund, which that is the reason why we have been hearing over the last 2 weeks, practically a lot of members of parliament from both sides of the divide has been, saying, are we really tabling a budget for next year to counter the necessary effects or after effect of spillover effect of the COVID-19 against the economy background, but I can just from here we can already see as much as operating expenditure is there, and this is basically for the government machinery, all the GLCs, all our universities and whatnot. The development expenditure will be basically the construction sector will be actually getting quite we call it a winner line, because there will be a lot of budget putting in for the development. All right, whether it's to beautify the facility infrastructure or the construction of new infrastructure. All right, so let's go deep down into some of these numbers. But before that, I just have to bring to you some of the things that has been announced so far, because one need to know the what you call this, the perspective of how big is this 322.5 billion when it comes to the budget. In fact, every year budgets is actually the largest in comparison to whatever that is been announced throughout the year. And you to bear in mind, this budget 2021 is actually a number or a so-called financial that is to be proposed for next year. So if you're talking to 2020 year 2020, basically there has been many stimulus package that was announced, and more so frequently this year, as you can see, there's a lot of our photos of our this what you call this Abba, Abba with this rotan. All right, and we of course prior to March it was a different government, where I wouldn't want to put it here because a lot of things are not carried forward. But at least you can see we started with a pre-Hatin of 230 billion, where it's not really direct. It's more the fiscal injection is actually quite a portion of it. And then we have the pre-Hatin PKS, which is only weeks after that, or even, because of the feedbacks and all the grouses from the SME industry. And then not long after, we realized that a lot of handouts, a lot of immediate monetary assistance was basically used up, or so-called not sufficient. And then we end up with Penjana. Penjana is basically stands for Pelan Pemutihan, or what you call it, Jangka Pendek lah, So this one basically 35 billion, by far one of the largest compared to 10 billion. And then of course we have kita pre-Hatin. All right. So if you add up, actually this year we already have almost close to what you call this 300 billion, So this is already used up for this year. Supposedly require Parliament approval lah. So whether the question is, the numbers are big. A lot of people are looking into the numbers, location, but the question is I put here, is whether it actually announced in time or not. Some people say it's actually too little, too late. So the money may be enough, may not be enough, but a lot of businesses are actually dying, or some already closed down, and people have lost their job. So when I talk about property, yeah, many shows gallery were closed during MCO and whatnot. So the impact is already there. So whether the budget does help in the future for next year is yet to be seen. And honestly speaking, I was excited when I was invited by UCSI to basically share my views on the budget related to real estate. But unfortunately, as you all know, the budget will have a voting on this what they call Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, 26th of November. So whether the budget is short-lived or not, we do not know. So I do not want to waste some of your time, but I'll just go through this shortly. Of course, I want to wish best of luck to our Abba here. If he gets the mandate or so-called approval to pass this budget, then some of these things will be here to stay lah. Otherwise, we may have a review and changes. All right. So bear this in mind as we go through this today.
Sorry,
So as you can
Dr.
see,
Allen, Dr.
yeah,
Allen, mind,
yeah.
mind me asking a question from your previous slide. I mean, there's one, two, three, four. I mean, there's four types of budgets before
No,
this
it's not
new
budget.
one,
It's not
right?
budget. It's not budget. It's just a stimulus package.
A
Okay.
stimulus package.
Budget is
So,
only once a year, and it is actually tabled for the following year. So basically, budget 2021 is not approved yet. It's just being tabled and presented.
so far, how did the stimulus package help the real estate market so far? Has it helped in any way before this budget?
I'm going to that, Tony. So
Going to that. All right.
if it's okay, can you leave the questions to the end of
All right.
the
No
topic?
props. No
So that
props.
would be good, as we always do. So we gather all the questions. Anyone have any questions, you can just put in comment down there, and Tony will pick it up, and we will address all these things later, because some of you may actually have some questions, but I may have covered it in the next few slides as usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
So yeah, that's basically this is the logo that was created a lot of hoo-ha in the initial stages. And as you can see, the theme for this budget was Kita Teguh Menang Bersama. All right, I'm not sure why it was that. Is it really more on the budget, or is it more political? But let's not comment on that, because based on the Agong, during the attempt for the declaration of emergency, it was mandated that all parties from both sides of the divide should actually support the budget. But of course, that's the reason why there's a debate, right? I'm sure there's a lot of differing views, and that is the reason why I put here a dichotomy between lives and livelihood. Basically, the budget should address a balance of all of the needs for the economy that was really pushed backwards, as well as also the lives that are at stake if people are going out there back to their normal lives. All right. So if you talk about this budget, that's why I don't want to use the English word, but these are some of the sources that I've gathered. If you translate the word Kita Teguh, what do you call this, Menang Bersama, PwC here says, it's called Stand United, we shall prevail, but it's not really the actual English word. There's another, what they call this, definition to this, but this is not the case. The case is that the key takeaways or the snapshot of the budget, the few hours of tabling and all the 300 over billion, basically cover only three areas, which is the well-being of the rakyat, because public health is of course of utmost importance. All right, and that also means that their livelihood, their jobs, and whatnot, social welfare. Secondly is of course business continuity. For those of the businesses that is still surviving, very good. They get to at least 9 months after MCO. And if those who needed help, so this is basically to cover all the grants and loans and whatnot. And of course, the third one would be basically the economic side of the needs of the country, which is more on the expansionary budget, more for development. All right. So another snapshot would be, this is from Deloitte. Okay, they call it, instead of Stand United, we shall prevail, they call it Resilient as One, Together we Triumph. So kind of translate to the same thing, Kita Teguh Menang Bersama. All right. So but at the end of the day, the overall view of the budget is to cater to three so-called areas of focus. All right. As you can see here, the arrow is pointing up, and the number one priority, which is done right by the government, I would say, is that they actually focus on the right yard first. Yeah, as much as only 5.3% of the budget is actually for the COVID, but a lot of the budget, mainly on the operational expenditure, is being used to so-called counter the effect of COVID-19, from handouts, which started since the GST days, all the way to retaining jobs, and to ensure that a lot of reskillings are there, all right, especially for the youths and for all the undergraduates. People lose their job, and then business continuity is very of key importance, since our country, 80% of it are driven by the SMEs, and of course the economic resilience part of it. All right. So again, this is still not zooming to real estate. Like I said, the real estate portion is only very little. So how can we relate the budget to the impact of the real estate market? So that is where we need to see some of the direct interest, or so-called announcement that is directly related. Yeah. So thanks again to the infographics by EdgeProp. Basically, most of the announcement are catering to the first-time home buyers. This is very, very logical. In fact, this is not new. It says that there's no stamp duty, or basically the MOT and loan agreement, the legal instrument fees are basically waived, for first home price below 500,000. And this is something like a good news, because prior to this, I think last year HOC, home ownership campaign, it was until 300,000. All right. And the good news is that this will be for all SPA that is signed from next year onwards. So which of course by the time it tables and approve, it's just timely. So basically 2020 year is gone. All developers, they already know their so-called profit for this year already, because a lot of people, if this is going to be approved, everybody will be waiting until 1st of January to execute their agreements. So I don't foresee any sales right now. So the next question is this: then could this actually apply to the secondary market, which is not announced in the budget explicitly? So, but then again, for 5 years, it's also signal one thing, which is very good. This will basically help a lot of people who is going to buy properties in the next 5 years, or people who want to invest in property. If the husband already bought a property, the wife want to invest, so they can use this as well. Okay. So what's another good thing about the budget? The budget also says that home buyers. Now this one is not limited to the what you call this the first-time home buyer. All right, and in fact, it also includes those who are actually getting wanted to get the abandoned housing project that is certified by the ministry or local KPKT. All right, so this is actually good for the so-called the buyers who are also perhaps stuck in one abandoned project that is revived by some white knights. Which bring me to the third point, which is also projects by those that are abandoned, but they are undergoing a revival by example, joint ventures or developers. So extension of stamp duty and also the legal instrument of MOT is again also exempted, okay, for another 5 years. So if you look at this, basically the direction is basically to also to solve some of the oversupply of properties in the market, and also to give ample time for some of the first-time home buyers who may not have taken advantage of the home ownership campaign last year. And the next one would be also home buyers. Home buyer mainly for those, I would say B40, all right, for those who are learning low income. All right, the B40 basically, of course, those of you in the industry, if you're watching this and you're in real estate, you know what it means. All right, it's basically for the 40% of the population of the market which have an income range which is continuously moving. So some people, in fact, during MCO, things are not looking good, and a lot of people are saying, if today I am M40, could I be dropping to B40 one day? Or if I'm T20, could I be dropping to M40? So the categorization is still very much fluid, but within the specific definition, of course, this is applicable to the low-income earners, where more monies are being plowed in to make sure that there is more projects being built in the next few years, to ensure that at least the first basic necessity is to have a roof above the head. All right, so PPR projects, SPNB, and also the Malaysian civil servant housing program. Yeah. And of course, back to first-time home buyers, also government will be basically selecting some institutions to provide the RTO or rent-to-own scheme. This is not new. This is something that has been announced, I think, in budget 2020 as well, which is the previous year for this year. And it's a good reminder. But the thing is that, of course, this is only eligible until 2022, which is a 2-year program. all right, and it's only limited to 5,000 houses only. Okay, so I think this is also good for those who have yet to recover from the effects. Maybe they lost their job, maybe they have a pay cut, at least they, or if they are married and they need a house, some privacy, so this is a time where the people can actually own first, and there's no shame to own a house. So I would say a lot of these announcements are catering to the B40s and the young, the belia, the youth of the country. And if this fair enough, I leave it to you, but I can always believe that the budget is actually to handle to address the people's welfare. And of course the T20 definitely is not included. Some of people say, is M40 not included? No, the government cannot satisfy everyone, and I'm not saying on behalf of the government, but I believe that these are some of the immediate measures that is needed. If we can still have a job, if we can still survive, and basically go online now to watch this, without thinking how many gigs of my internet data will be used up, I think you are not on the B40 category. All right. And of course, under the treasury also, under this budget, there is a so-called targeted extension of the moratorium, which we all know actually expires on 30th of September. There was a 6-month moratorium during the MCO. All right. But this budget, it says that it will be extended, but it's only limited to those people who are affected. Okay. So for those of them who under the B40, they can actually extend it for 3 months, or they can actually reduce it to 50% of their installment or loan commitment for 6 months. All right. Whereas the M40, all right, it depends on whether it's very subjective. It depends on the financial institution. All right. You can actually apply based on your condition or your circumstances. All right. So again, this is also part of the budget. Now, as I've just covered some of these direct interest or salient points of the what you call this real estate related goodies, there's also a need to remind that some of you who have been actually following, maybe some of you are lost. That's why I said I put the earlier figures first. There's so many economic stimulus along the months, from Prihatin to Prihatin PKS for the SME, to Kita Prihatin, Penjana, Kita Prihatin. So do not forget there is actually this HOC that is actually being extended since last year, and then extended for 6 months, and now until next year, until May 31st of May 2021. Yeah. And also you have to understand that although it was not announced in the budget, some of the things that was already announced during Penjana in June, all right, where there is no RPGT for I think, if not mistaken, properties, yeah, for 3 properties, up to maximum limit of 3 properties. Yeah, of course you wish that it can go back to the early heydays where RPGT is 0 after 5 years lah. That is something good if the policy stakeholders or people who are debating can amend to this, because then it will spur the market. But I think that is where the mixed responses are, because you can't get the best of both, at least you get a little bit of it. So 3 properties is still good enough. At least it helps those people who want to liquidate a property, because property is a very illiquid asset. At least during the what do you call this bad times, people can liquidate it without thinking of paying more tax. And of course the 70% margin, which is something good. Anything above your 3rd property, you can actually get more so-called loan, of course subject to your debt service ratio. All right, if you have a clean state, good, nice CCRIS, and also CTOS, everything okay, bearing those unforeseen circumstances, you should be able to get more than 70% of your loan approved. All right, for a 3rd property and onwards. So with that, I think it is a so-called a light at the end of the tunnel, and this is something that would be beneficial for those of them who are looking into getting what you call this real estate real estate related interest. All right. So next, I'm sure you have some questions. You can actually put it down there in the comment. And for those of you who are still following this talk, I appreciate if you can just put a 1 in the comment there, just to let me know that you are actually following this up to now. If you have not, you can just put some questions or comments there. All right. So next is that let's look into some of these what you call real estate impact for the indirect factors. All right, the indirect factors. So what are the things that can also announced that could impact the real estate, although not directly, So basically, real estate market can be also influenced by some indirect factors like the affordability or the earning power, the employability of the person who is buying. All right, because it's always about supply and demand. Today in the market, like I said earlier, in 2015, we already have some oversupply of properties. So what if there is no absorption there's no buyers. So this is basically not something that we want to look at. But then again, the only way to do it is to make sure cater to the demand. So the demand will be there if people are earning properly, people have no issues, bread and butter issues, and their business is ongoing, they have enough surplus. And of course, if the whole economy is developed with infrastructures going on and whatnot. So ultimately, these are the things that are part of the budget. As I said, the economic resilience slide and the business growth of it, which is, I would call it the indirect factors. So this is another source from the Treasury. All right, as you can see there was this announcement for Jana Kerja or Scheme Jaminan Penjanaan Pekerjaan. All right, where they are targeting at least another 500,000 of so-called job opportunity. Yeah. So job opportunity is there, and it is a three-pronged strategy. All right. There is this Penjana Kerjaya 2 billion by Perkeso. All right. It's mainly for more than 250,000, or basically half of the allocated 3.7 billion. And then there's this reskilling, upskilling, because a lot of people who have lost their job or they are retrenched, unemployed right now, irrespective of age. So there's this reskilling effort for up to 200,000. All right, trainers, in fact. So either you become a trainer or you get trained, yeah. And I think this is very important. So that's why a lot of people are actually not aware of this. And I really thank for this kind of platform where I can share to some of the practitioners here. Sometimes you just want to push your product out into the market. It doesn't mean you have to just talk about the salient point. You have to talk about things that are related. Maybe you are already do a good justice to some of your potential clients, where they can actually look into some of these effort, because either way they need to buy property, they need to prepare, example, their income statement for 6 months. So if you can go and reskill and get a job, eventually they want to buy a property, they will remember who? They will remember the person who brought them this news, yeah. So, and then of course the third strategy would be the My Step, which involves 700 million. All right, my apologies for the slide in Bahasa, because I extracted it direct from the what do you call this government website. And of course, it says that there are 50,000 job opportunities in GLCs starting from January. So we hope that 2021 would be something like, it gives a breather and a hope to some of these people. Of course, there are a lot of people who lost their job, from the private, like, we have the pilot, donning their thing and go to the doing a shop, and all these things. But I think this is where we have to survive. We can't just wait for the announcement, and I won't be surprised even some of these announcements does not reach the ground or the market, targeted market, because of communication breakdown. People will not go and bother to check. If you don't have the data, you can't go online, number one. So if you're not buying newspaper, so where do you get the news from? So I think this is where word of mouth is very important. So for agents, property agents, if you are doing your job well, you should be reaching out to the people in need, your targeted market. And if you are not getting some of these people, it's either the visibility or your reach is not there, okay, in full. All right. So Jana Kerja also basically, as this is more detailed, it's all about the incentive from the what do you call this, the employers, majikan. All right, and all the not to really depend on the foreigner. Okay, so there's a lot of ample opportunities lah. And this one definitely will increase the employability and also the earning power. All right. And of course, reskilling and upskilling itself. All right. There is a lot of platforms from MDEC to KPT, PACE, HRDF, there's so many tax relief here. All right. You can get a look, go to treasury.gov.my if you missed some of this. All right. I'm just going to go quickly. So at least just we touch on there is announcement that is being announced in the budget, where there are ample opportunities, and there have been even this short-term employment program. Okay, they call it Malaysia My Step, where people can choose to work in the public sector. So for those of you who maybe lost your job, but you have the skills that could apply to the public sector, although it's very competitive, because today if there's a vacancy, unlike normal days where you have maybe 10 or 15 shortlisted candidates, today you have maybe hundreds over or thousands over of people going after the same job. So it's all about the skills that the people need. So again, this is indirectly will impact the purchasing power of the people, because if you can keep your job and you have a peace of mind, eventually buying a property will be something that you can consider. Okay, especially with the proper payslip, where banks need to look into that and whatnot. Of course, if you got a job with the GLC, it's even better, it's even more solid. At least the banks will say, okay, this will have higher rating because you are working with the government, so there's 15,000 of vacancy available. All right. So, and of course, this is kelangsungan PKS means SME continuity, all right. or I don't want to use the word survival, but this is where basically it helps some of the SME, beside grants from banks and institutions. All right, there's also a lot of subsidies, all right, from the digital aspect to women to tekun, boomies and whatnot. So I suggest that you all, those who are related, go take your time to really look into some of this budget, which could relate to you, okay, but not everybody. Yeah. So if it's not for you, it means you are still good. Yeah. Unless you are affected, then you need to ask, which one is related to me and whatnot. All right. So I've gone through basically the overall picture and also the benefits directly and indirectly. Now let's get back to basically so the impact of this budget. Yeah. I think the impact of this budget, like I said, is either very clear or is rather, a lot of uncertainty. Because number one, we have to see what is the word for the budget, this coming next few days, whether it will pass the so-called August House or not, they won't right yet. If it pass, then all this makes sense. Otherwise, if it's not, then you can just consider my 45 minutes of sharing here as just, I know some of you are asking me, Alan, you've been a while since your last talk. Yes, because number one, I'm busy also cari makan, in the last few months, especially during the window of RMCO, where people are coming out, and today we are all get stuck. In fact, a lot of people feel that this CMCO 2.0 is even stricter or worse than MCO. So having said that, so there's still a lot of uncertainty. I wish I have the crystal ball in front of you to answer all your questions, but I could just let you see what are the correlations of the budget, real estate, and the overall, and perhaps some consideration that you could actually look into, and some of which I already said earlier of this year when I speak to on this platform on UCSI in April, I think. I basically covered some of the ideas already. All right. So basically, real estate is very much interlinked or intertwined with the health of the economy. The correlation is quite simple. If there's a decline of the economy, definitely there's a decline in the volume and value of property transactions every year. All right. So we already know that last year market was trying to pick up after the bottom in 2018. But as this year was hit by not only the change of government, the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's not only the virus, but actually the control movement order, okay, in the name of so-called lives, saving lives and balancing between livelihood, has affected many businesses. And because of that, definitely we don't have to see the figures for this year. But despite all said and done, there was also a glimmer of hope because of all the stimulus packages like the Penjana, which actually extend the HOC. So some of you who may want to buy a property, but your plan was derailed due to the COVID because of maybe salary pay cut or whatnot, at least there is still continuity of your plan. You can still plan forward until next year, all right, for that and all your RBGT until the end of next year, all right. So another correlation that I would say that for this round on the budget is that the projected GDP for next year growth around 6.5 to 7.5% according to the Minister of Finance. Yeah, a lot of people say it's a little bit far-fetched, but if it's so positive, then perhaps that will decide on the economy as well. All right, because it also projected a lower unemployment, which means some of the strategy, if it could work, then it will affect the affordability and perhaps more people can have more money in their pocket. All right, with all the EPFs and always one-off money and handout and whatnot. So will this continue? I'm not sure, but at least we can see there's a correlation in that. All right, some people say that this year already the GDP or the economy is already contracted by so much, negative 6% or what, negative 4.5%. So to have a 7.5% growth is like 11% growth, So can we do that? I'm not sure. Perhaps when, perhaps not. But if we can, then it's something good that the whole country can look forward to. Of course, again, nobody would like to use the word recession, but technically we already, every day flooded with all the how many thousands of cases. That's why if you notice, even MKN, the National Security Council, already changed, or even the KKM Ministry of Health already changed their reporting from how many cases for positive to how many recoveries every day. So a lot of negative words were not used, okay? And I like that. I'm the person who like to always be positive. But let's be realistic. We are already in recession, all right? And the budget this time is a emergency budget for survival, all right? It's not really to so-called spur people to buy properties, all right? As much as a lot of sectors from different market segment wants to, all right? So people want to cover their basic needs for survival first. So again, these are some of the things that we have to be very realistic about. And if we can see the correlations, whether we are a developer, professional agency, the buyers, investors, stakeholders, business operators, property entrepreneurs, then we can take our position moving on. Yeah. And I want to show this photo is because I think everybody is looking at bread and butter. But bread and butter also got two types, or even got many types. Some is the one that, is only cost 50 cents or 90 cents, where you eat it after your school and you get hungry. But there are some even butterscotch like this, where the butter is already, melted inside. And then there are the expensive one where they serve you with one piece and they charge you a bomb. So again, everybody bread and butter is different. So to everybody, the needs are different. So it's very hard to say that, just because of one budget, one announcement, one incentive, it will benefit everybody. Even the quantum of beneficiary will be very likely different, because some are already in urban area, some are a little bit outskirt. So how does all this thing reach to the people? It's still yet to be seen. All right. So that is the reason why I usually do not want to comment much in terms of budget. But this time, I feel that this is important for me to wrap up what I have told people earlier. Is there opportunities in real estate market this year? And I was very positive, and I given some of my guidelines or my so-called area of focus, which I want to basically put a so-called closure or so-called a summary to it, which I will link it shortly to you. Is that if you can see the market direction, all right, there is still a few considerations to take in place. Number one is that how soon the whole COVID-19 will be under control. Anyone got any questions? So-called any answers? Of course, we have the Moderna, we have the COVAX, we have Pfizer, all talking about high efficiency of vaccines coming out. But again, does the policy of the government will react to some of these news? Maybe share market, yes, but will we? You see, a lot of people saying that now that we have so many weeks of CMCO 2.0, how come we are not returning to RMCO? How come the cases are so high? So there's a lot of factors. In fact, there's a potential consideration to revert from CMCO to MCO, but I think that will be a nail in a coffin for most businesses. Yeah, right. Will it happen? Possible. I wouldn't say we discount the possibility. So again, will the control movement order be incongruent with the vaccine as well? Because vaccine also may not reach the general public. It may only reach some of the frontliners first, because they are the ones who's fighting every day in Sungai Buloh, in all the hospitals. Yeah. So again, with all this thing going on, some of the budget, if it's approved this Thursday, the execution and implementation, the speed of it, yeah, or the communication of it, will it reach the targeted market soon? And the amount of it, because now we are seeing politics at its highest level, where some saying that some of this budget doesn't go to some opposition state and whatnot, and now we don't even know who is opposition, who is not, because everything is in a limbo. All right, the whole state of Malaysia, I'm not painting a bad picture, but I'm just saying that the uncertainty is actually very related to the politics side. So as much as the politicians or the government are looking into purely public health, as well as some of the financial fiscal consideration, they also have to look into their own policy making. Are the ministries working in silo, or are they working together in synergy? How fast can the disbursement be done? Like what we have learned since March, where a lot of financial assistance doesn't meet some of these businesses. Because when businesses falter, real estate is affected, because they will end their tenancy if they are renting their shops for businesses or offices. So all these things is actually connected. And at the end of the day, if you look into just the residential part, affordability is still a critical factor. All right. If people cannot handle their bread and butter, they will not think of buying a property at this juncture. All right. As much as I would say that not just buying from primary market, okay, to even get the secondary market or the auction market, which I will cover shortly. Yeah. So having said that, I want to review to you, so-called review as in, flashback to you. This is an article that I've written in March, end of March early this year. I did say that this year is not all doom and gloom, because I know the government will definitely going to announce stimulus packages when there's an economy so-called setback. All right. But the thing is that you need to look into the bright side, not just with plain hope, but at least we need to identify certain sectors. So today, if you are a buyer or an investor, all right, and I think most of people are zooming into the demand side, because where there is demand, where we follow the money trail, that is where we service some of these clients or our business, we should focus on. So I did say that some subsectors will shine. Okay. So Having said that, my core has always been the same, is that when you are in bad times, when times are tough, it's always, I mean, no man is an island, and everybody doesn't have to be so different. Everybody is actually stuck. Okay, but how do we go above and beyond? It all depends on our actions. If we can come out and say, you're not my enemy now, you're not my competitor now, and let's collaborate. Property agencies, there are so many of you. All right, there's so many mergers and acquisition happening place. So why not look into that? Collaborate, converge the resources, and network. Example, I've actually mentioned before in my April talk, where I did say that if you talk into the warehouse or factories in the industry sector, all right, perhaps there is a way to get out from it, also call ensure the demand is there by repurposing some of this place to be a retail trade center, like what IKEA is doing. All right, a lot of businesses doesn't need to be in the shop lots anymore. Okay, because a lot of things now under e-commerce, everything, all the logistics up can directly from the e-commerce, where the so-called supply chain can still work during control movement order. You see, so that's why I put a small little on the top left corner, this article, which says that even one brand called Uniqlo is ready to open their store. Now, this is where, from my suggestion, it became a reality. So if we can actually look forward, and property and real estate is always about having a vision in the future. All right, I've observed the market long enough to see that there is this trend. And if we follow the trend, I wouldn't say we would be 100% correct, but we wouldn't go wrong. All right. So I won't have the crystal ball, and I won't also guarantee things happen, but I would say this is some of the trends that is happening in the market. Now, we talk about commercial, even in the retail side of it, shopping malls, for example. I did say that today, with all this movement control order, we want to have to look into this subsector and say that perhaps how does business move in the next few months or in the next few years in future, not just Malaysia, worldwide. Everyone is looking at convenience. We already have phones, we already have 5Gs, and people are talking about 6G now. Everyone is buying all the way from online. There's so many things that is offered digitally by the budget. So perhaps now it's time to looking into this. We have many businesses which doesn't change and close down, but we also have now people doing live commerce using so-called FB Live and all this social media to basically bring some of this product direct to the hands of the buyers. So things are changing. Perhaps these are some of the usage that people need to look into. And if you are into this industry, whether you are doing a hybrid mixed development, you have shop lots, you have retail segment, and if you are servicing some of your clients, whether buyer or seller, this is something that you need to look into. Yeah. And indeed true, this is also credit to Edge. One of the article that was written is that, today even shopping mall are being repurposed, based on the trend for e-commerce, even parking lots. All right. So I've been basically talking about this the last one whole year, basically. A lot of my articles are written in magazines, in newspaper are based on that. And things are happening as I said it, and when I initially put it out, a lot of people laugh and say, what are you talking about, Alan? All right. Of course, malls need to reinvent themselves. And in fact, hotels as well, which are closing down, which is hit badly, right? The tourism industry. So even today, we are seeing that some of them are using it as a co-working space where they offer a workay. They don't call it staycation, they call it workcation. Workcation, it's like you are having a vacation, but you're working there in a room. So there are plenty of a list of hotels in Malaysia, in Klang Valley itself, that are offering even a packed meal. They give them some credit for them for have lunch or business meeting, and you have the privacy. So some of these things are looking into the trend of repurposing or so-called turn around the asset, which I've been also myself involved in the last few months, doing consultancy advisory for a lot of all these asset owners which come to me and know some of my background here today. All right. And of course, I did mention this very clearly on the first earlier of the year as well, with some of my what you call this article online, that I say that because of the pandemic of COVID-19, the awareness on healthcare and wellness has become so high that today everyone looks into health, and truly indeed the idiom of health is wealth is definitely there. So even wellness real estate, it's not being hospital doing things, it's not just doing a spa. Could some of these asset or empty rooms or empty spaces can be converted and turned into something that is more useful, that can sustain the so-called cash flow? For example, the landlord. All right. So it's time for the landlord to come in and work with the agents and work with the so-called market to see what is there to do the gap and ensure that there is continuity. Of course, in residential, there is this also article to say that, a lot of people are delaying, but I think this is not just delay based on the pandemic or the COVID-19 scare. It's also because that there is this policy to say that, January onwards, you will have this RPGT, you have this blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people are waiting, and they're doing their survey. And it's true. Everybody is who are ready with the cash in hand or pay slip or whatever, who are buying, they are waiting. Okay. And it's right to say that, because if we are on the so-called seller side, we also want to know what are the people looking at. So perhaps it's time to basically beautify. If you are doing a secondary housing, if you have a house, you want to sell, you want to find the right tenant, a lot of work. We have been talking about this for many years. You have to beautify and manage your property well. You cannot just let your property devalue. All right, because when it comes to competition, you want to be the first one to get off the market. Yeah, the property. So and this brings me back to this point where, we know that the moratorium has ended 6 months, for 6 months, ended in September. Then there was this rebates for landlord who actually give a slash of 30% discount. So with all these things gone now, does it bode well for the residential market? Of course, moratorium can still be extended to some who are affected. But overall, there is this call to say that, why not we extend it? Some parties in the member of parliament also say that, let's have a deal. Let's bring this back. So it all depends on how well you actually position yourself. If you have actually overloaded your commitment with so many properties without tenant, yeah, you may be in a distress mode. And talking about distress, I've been in the distress market for many, many years. Myself first as an investor, and then doing a lot of teaching and coaching, and of course now doing a lot of advisory for a lot of clients and asset owners who are distressed. And I would say one thing, is always, always, always opportunity. Because why? When it comes to example, the distress market, like the auction, all right, are we seeing more auction in the future? I wouldn't say so. All right, yes and no, because at the end of the day, no one would simply want to let go of their property if there's still some glimmer of hope. All right, there's still avenues to basically salvage your asset, because at the end of the day, you do a lot of work to buy the property. Unless you buy irresponsibly, all right, if you have been buying property and you have been holding on to some of this asset that give you cash flow, just because there's a gap now with the tenancy, it doesn't mean that you will let go of property. So auction is still still a fair market. With all this RPGT and 70% off, I think people can look into auction property as well. All right, but all in all, as I mentioned in the past, these are some of the list of uh, considerations, yeah, which I've written down in my article before. Irrespective whether it's distressed or not, ultimately, if you want to go into the market, you still have to look into some of the considerations at hand. All right, which basically are some of these in yellow and white, because some of these are direct. You need to come up with your own money. You need to have that down payment deposit. Of course, the yellow ones are the ones that are optional. Now in stamp duty waiver, you don't have to pay it. All right, and a lot of things are not required now. So it all depends. So you have to do your numbers right, because when the numbers are right, you enter correctly, you budget very well, and you know what to expect in terms of your tenant demand. I think it is still safe to enter into the property market. And that is the reason why I really appreciate and I say yes to UCSI College for this an hour-long talk, because you need this kind of education platform to get yourself educated. And I hope you all can share this link now on my Facebook page, official page, or even UCSI page, which is being broadcast live in three platforms, three walls, to share as much as you can. For those of you who are seeing this later on, I know some of you are working and you can't see this, and you're seeing this later tonight or throughout the week. Please share as much as you can so that more people can get to know this. All right. So all in all, my take, if you ask me, since I've been talking to you for the last 1 hour, is always not to lose your money. All right. So but not to lose money doesn't mean you don't take action. All right. A lot of people also lose money because they don't take action. They see it and then the opportunity pass by just like that. All right. So you just have to know, make sure you remember these two rules. All right. So with that, I know this is not the right logo for this government, but we really hope, that no one is left behind. Unfortunately, the one who came up with this logo also, they left already. That's why, we are behind. All right. And yeah, and I hope that the last 1 hour has been conducive and beneficial to you. And just to not leave everyone behind, there is this educational books that I've been written, and Tony has been mentioning, that got me into the Malaysian Book of Records. If you want to get a hold of this book and if you haven't get it, you can go to the bookstores. But if you don't want and you want it to be delivered to your place, you can PM my Alan Poon official Facebook page. All right, with this combo that's special only for those who view this today. All right, you can PM UCSI FB page special, and we will get it delivered to your details that you send to us via these two so-called Facebook. All right, the top is my personal, and the bottom is my Facebook page. You can like, follow, and share, and we will get your orders in no times in due course. All right. So with that, since you guys are watching, and I really want to again give the credit to our frontliners. Thank you for keeping us safe. So let's stay at home, keep our physical distance, and I hope to see all of you next year in 2021, because by seeing you next year means everybody in the Metal Ox year, we will be work very hard, unlike the year of the rat, yeah, and kita mesti menang. All right. So thank you very much. 谢谢你. Terima kasih, Nandri.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just,
Dr. Alan,
yeah.
Thank you very much for the session. Now, I have this question that I believe that a few of my students have been asking as well. How is the market right now? Do you think that they should actually venture into real estate, especially for let's say my school leavers?
Again, your question is very vague. Venture into real estate in what field? In being an agent, in being
an
a
agent,
valuer,
let's say,
being a developer,
being an agent,
being a property entrepreneur. So the whole value chain of real estate is huge. But if being an agent, I'm not in the right so-called position to advise, because I'm not in the estate agency practice. Of course, they can ask Hatamas, they can ask other agencies as well, or even UCSI, because then these are the platform. But if you ask me, the market has always been there. Property has always been one of the three major so-called sectors for someone to create wealth, aside from business and of course the equity market. So timing itself is all about learning first. I would suggest those who want to venture into this field, get on with education first. That is the reason why I set up my company, Superior Wealth, as an education company many years ago, before I now actually branch out into advisory. All right. So for agents, I think if it is not only your bread and butter, you can always do it part-time first, if I'm allowed to say that. Yeah. You can get yourself educated and learn everything good thing you need. There's so many books out there. There are news, there are so many Facebook page and groups right now. Unlike my days when I started to invest in property almost 20 years ago, I basically have nothing to basically research on. There's no websites. There is no, at the time, don't even have Facebook, no website. Talk about courses. I think you can't find it, it's so difficult. And you really have to learn from those who have actually, dirty their hands, which is the one who either make their money or lost their money. The one who lost their money will tell you that, it's very passive mistake, don't go in. The one who make their money will say it's easy and it's no brainer. So again, property is not about hearsay. You have to really do your homework. And I always tell my students those days when I was doing a lot of coaching. In fact, today I still do courses, but more on the professional level. And when I do that, I always tell them you have to do your leg work as well. Head work is where you basically look into all the figures and numbers, all right, of buying a property, selling property. Because being an agent, you have to understand both sides of the divide. You have to know how the buyers and the sellers think. You cannot be just there and say, hi, Mr. A, hi, Mr. B, talk to each other. Finish, I get the commission. I think everybody can agree with me to that. All my agency friends can agree with me to that. You cannot just earn without doing hard work, all right? So head work, leg work, and of course, both are hard work, all right? Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Allen. Now, let me just go through the comment section just in case. Mr. Cheong Kin Fong, stamp duty exemption not mentioned to sub-sale PF properties. What else?
What's the question again?
It was a comment by Mr. Cheong, stamp duty exemption not mentioned to sub-sale PF properties.
Yeah, I did mention that, secondary market.
Secondary market, right?
I think that's not a question. Any questions?
No question, except Christopher says hi and he likes your glasses.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, thank you. This is my reading glasses. Finally, after so many years, I have to wear already.
All right, so if there's no more questions on the floor, so I shall leave you be. Dr. Allen, thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting. Thank you.
No worries. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll end the session.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Stay safe. Bye bye.